Welcome back, friends. Do you guys like Doctor Who? I liked Doctor Who back when it was good, but let's not get into that. Instead, let's talk about one specific aspect of Doctor Who, that being the Cybermen. Today, we are seeing if the Cybermen from Doctor Who would be capable of invading and conquering the Halo universe during the events of Halo 2. Right off the bat, I need to make a few things very clear. For the sake of discussion, we will not be taking the Great Schism into account. In this timeline, the Great Schism never happens, and the Covenant is prevented from splitting into two and essentially weakening themselves. Now, regarding Cybermen, Doctor Who is kinda like Helldivers. We see and hear about factions and their war capabilities, but we aren't really shown everything. And the timeline in Doctor Who, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Therefore, I will be using every ounce of Doctor Who lore knowledge I have retained in my mind to give the Cybermen a customized empire for this invasion. So just a disclaimer, this may not be 100% lore accurate, but I don't see why that matters because A, Doctor Who lore is inconsistent and bonkers and weird and timey-wimey, and B, this is, at the end of the day, just for fun. So, 100% lore accuracy doesn't really matter to me. As long as I think it's close enough, we're good. Now, with all that being said, let's move on to the factions. The Halo universe is vast, and there are many different factions we see and hear about from many different time periods, but for now, we will be focusing on the events of Halo 2, assuming the Great Schism will not happen. The three factions we will be exploring from the Halo universe are the UNSC, the Covenant, and the Flood. The United Nations Space Command is a military agency that fights to defend humanity and the unified Earth government. The UNSC is composed of entirely human fighters, which will definitely gain the attention and interest of the Cybermen. The UNSC primarily use bullets, slug projectiles. They have some energy weapons, but 90% of their arsenal is made up of bullets. This will be a serious problem for the UNSC. We've seen many times now that the Cybermen have extreme resistance to bullets. Even the weakest iterations of the Cybermen, the Cybus Industries variants, take absolutely no damage from firearms. And yes, you could say that those are modern weapons and the UNSC has higher power futuristic weapons, but the Cybermen have super advanced futuristic armor, and we'll get into just how advanced their armor can get sooner than later. So in fights of infantry v infantry, it's already not looking too good for the UNSC. The UNSC will have to make use of much more powerful weapons much more often, and thankfully, they do have a few trusty big guns up their sleeves. I think weapons like the Spanker and Spartan Laser would probably serve them well, at least for a little while. The UNSC has a wide variety of vehicles, Warthog variants, aerial vehicles, tanks, mechs, you name it. They certainly have more than the Cybermen, but yet again, I don't think that's going to be enough to counter what the Cybermen have. I will explain why soon enough. The UNSC at the time of Halo 2 is already fighting a losing battle against the Covenant. It's really just over, okay? They're already in a weakened state. They're not going to be able to fight off an invasion from the Cybermen, one of the largest, most technologically advanced, and overall most powerful factions in Doctor Who. Again, I will explain in a bit more detail just how powerful the Cybermen are, but for now, I'm just trying to run through the UNSC and Covenant. Overall, the UNSC are not going to last very long. The Covenant, on the other hand, will tell a slightly different story. As I've said already, the Great Schism is not happening in this timeline, so they will be retaining their full might. Right off the bat, plasma weapons will likely fare better against most cyber units. Some of the more powerful and durable Cybermen will likely be unaffected. I think the vehicle situation for the Covenant is about the same as well. They have more vehicles, a wide variety, but the Cybermen have everything they need to conquer the field with or without a bunch of ground vehicles. The biggest advantage for the Covenant would be their navy, in my opinion. Doctor Who is similar to Helldivers in the sense that we haven't seen much of the naval capabilities of each faction. We know the Cybermen have warships, but we don't really know how big or powerful they are in the current era. But I personally believe it's safe to assume modern warships would be fairly large and powerful. We already saw how big a cyber carrier is in Ascension of the Cybermen, and if you pay attention to just how powerful the Cybermen are on the ground or with individual units, I don't see why similar sizes and technology wouldn't be used on their naval crafts. Because of how little we've seen of cyber fleets, I think the Cybermen would sort of struggle to get their bearings in naval battles in the very start. The Covenant would have the advantage in the beginning, but if you give the Cybermen enough time, they'll adapt and overcome. That's basically just their whole shtick. I think it's easy to assume the Cybermen would likely dominate in ground battles though, even if plasma weapons would prove to be more effective than the UNSC's arsenal, at least for the time being. It's also worth taking into account that if the Cybermen want to upgrade Covenant species, they likely could. Later models of the Cybermen, like what we see in Nightmare and Silver at the end of the Cyber Wars, are able to upgrade any and all organic species, or I should say almost any organic species. Some of you also pointed out in my last versus matchups involving the Covenant that the Covenant would likely refrain from throwing troops into ground engagements and just stick to classing planets or enemy-controlled worlds instead. I think this is something we should take into account. I'm skipping the Flood for now because I think that's going to be the most complicated and interesting conversation we have here. First and foremost, I want to cover the Cybermen, everything we know about them in this scenario, what they're capable of, and why I think both the UNSC and Covenant are going to be demolished fairly easily. Keep in mind that I am describing my own customized version of the Cyber Empire in this segment. I'm trying to stay as lore accurate as I can, but some things may not be 100% lore accurate due to a lack of official information. All of the non-confirmed things I add will either be good theories or things that have been suggested by writers and showrunners, but never officially confirmed. But with all that being said, let's get on with the juicy stuff. The Cybermen are cyborgs, go figure. Their home planet Mondaz was dying, so in an effort to survive, the Mondazians elected to upgrade themselves with cybernetic enhancements for the sake of survival. In exchange for survival, they traded their humanity. Now, becoming a cyborg is perfectly fine and dandy, there's nothing wrong with that. The only problem is, they decided they were the superior life forms, and every other organic creature needed to be just like them. This desire to convert everything didn't stem from a place of hatred or aggression, but rather a place of twisted mercy. They essentially believe that by forcing everyone else to follow in their footsteps, they are saving the universe from the torment of emotions and weakness. Over time, the Cybermen became more militarized. They quickly became one of, and arguably even the most powerful factions in the Doctor Who universe. This is, of course, before the Time War took place. Then the Daleks advanced significantly and took that crown. But after the Time War, the Daleks got weaker, while the Cybermen have only seemingly gotten stronger. So they may yet again be the most dangerous faction in Doctor Who currently. Now, there have been multiple different branches and factions of different types of Cybermen that all basically went off and did their own thing and started their own wars. Eventually, most of these factions died out or ended up merging with one another to create the Cyber Empire we see today. Something else to take into account is the Parallel Earth Cybermen. In the late 2000s, a Parallel Earth saw the rise of its own alternate version of the Cybermen that were created right in London. Long story short, they were defeated and found their way to the main universe, where they then became stranded. It's believed that, after some time, they met and merged with the Mondazian Cybermen from our universe, exchanging information and technology. This, of course, only helped the modern Cyber Empire grow. The Cybermen have waged war against multiple species. They've had conflicts with humans, Vogons, Daleks, Centaurans, but their biggest known conflicts are the Cyber Wars. These conflicts started in the 22nd century and ended in the 25th century. The Cybermen were defeated, but they returned from the ashes, as they always do, about 1,000 years later. Now that we're all caught up on the lore and the Cybermen's motivation, we can talk about their weapons, units, strengths, and weaknesses. To start us off, we have Cyber Legion Cybermen. These designs originated from the Parallel Earth Cybus Industries Cybermen. We know for a fact that these guys saw frequent use even alongside the more powerful cyber units. We see examples of their existence and usage in both Nightmare and Silver and Ascension of the Cybermen. Legion Cybermen were slow and stompy, but had superhuman strength to make up for it. They're also equipped with arm-mounted lasers and an electric touch. Their arm-mounted lasers have been seen killing humans instantly, but we've never seen how effective they are against armor or shielding. And no, I'm not counting their ineffectiveness against the Cult of Skaro. The Cult of Skaro are like the 4 most powerful Daleks we've seen on screen. Their shield strength is not comparable to anything we've seen in Halo. These guys are also able to function without their organic elements. Independent limbs can even move on their own and like attack you. Like a head can come out and like, you know, like surround you with tentacles and stuff. It's wild. Legion Cybermen have also commonly used energy rifles. Sometimes the energy rifles fire a blast of electricity, and other times they fire lasers. We constantly see these guys tanking bullets, but we have seen them get destroyed with rocket launchers and other specialized weapons designed specifically for them. But in all fairness, the Cybermen affected by these anti-feats were the Parallel Earth Cybermen, which are some of the weakest Cybermen we've ever seen on screen, considering they were made with late 2000s technology. Since this is obviously after the Cybus-Mundazian merge, I think we can assume that the Legion Cybermen would be more powerful and durable than their late 2000s counterparts. But I won't just give them feats we've never seen before, so for the sake of discussion, I'll say their durability is relatively the same. Cyber Warriors were first seen in Ascension of the Cybermen, and since then are considered the current Cyberman variant we see in all modern episodes they appear in. The Cyber Warriors were designed solely for war. Like their Legion counterparts, they have been seen using an electric touch. They also have arm-mounted lasers that can blow up turrets, kill humans, and even kill other Cybermen in one shot. Durability-wise, they're bulletproof. Sometimes they can take 1 or 2 shots from lasers before falling, and other times they get 1 shot. Now, in fairness, I don't know how powerful the weapons they've been killed by are. I don't know how they would compare to Covenant Plasma, but I still think Covenant Plasma would at least do fine against their armor. They're not indestructible. And while we're on the topic of Cyber Warriors, I want to just say that we are not including the Cyber Masters in this scenario. They were only made with the help of the Master. They don't exist here. I think I should also mention that every Cyberman is capable of flight. Finally, we have the absolute most terrifying Cyber unit we've seen so far. That being the War-class Cyberman, seen in Nightmare in Silver. And we know these guys existed alongside the Cyber Warriors because Ashad, the lone Cyberman, has body parts that belong to these guys. So we know they existed in canon at the same time. These guys are durable. Obviously they're bulletproof, but unlike their warrior counterparts, they are able to tank energy weapons more commonly. They can also move faster than the eyes can see. One Cyberman literally moves so fast, everything around him seems to just completely freeze. We've only seen them do this once, and I believe it's because accomplishing this feat must take a lot of energy, so they don't use it very often. But clearly they can still do it. Something else we need to understand is the way their durability works. So already, by default, they're pretty durable, but let's say one of them gets destroyed by like a Spartan laser or some powerful plasma weapon. Well, sooner than later, the War-class Cybermen will upgrade mid-battle on the field, and every existing unit will now receive an immunity to the weapon that just killed one of them. So basically, these weapons are only effective for a short amount of time before they're rendered useless. These Cybermen also have arm-mounted lasers and an electric touch, just like the others. The War-class Cybermen are just OP. There's no way around it. On top of this, the Cybermen have additional support units such as the Cyber Drones, which are just floating Cyberman heads with laser eyes. Yeah, I don't know. There are also Cybermats and Cybermites. Cybermats are basically upgraded rodents that can be used for infiltration and sabotage. Cybermites are essentially little robot bugs that can do the same thing but better. Cybermites are also able to convert people on the spot. Now, in fairness, they can't perform full conversions, but they can basically plant cyber control into your mind and use your body like a puppet. So you'll essentially be a cyber slave. These are less advanced, but are primarily used for causing confusion and fear. If Cybermites were present on the battlefield, they would likely upgrade enemy soldiers on the spot and convert them into cyber slaves. I think cyber shades are also worth mentioning. Cyber shades are the result of upgrading cats and dogs or other animals. Cyber shades are more of a desperate and primitive attempt at growing numbers, and they were only used once in Victorian London. Cybermen do also have about 2 ground vehicles that I was able to find. They have the Cyber Mole, which is just a big drill, and then they have Cyber Kings. These are massive Dreadnought-class ships with huge cyber factories inside their chests. These things are the sole reason the Cybermen won't need to worry about not having an abundance of ground vehicles. Honestly, all you need is one of these things, and they'll shake up the battlefield enough. 3 of them alone were able to spearhead an invasion of Sontar, the Sontaran homeworld. Keep in mind, the Sontarans are one of the greatest fighting forces in the Doctor Who universe. The Cybermen also make use of smaller ships, seemingly fighter-like craft, though we've never really seen them in action. We do also know that the Cybermen do make use of airstrikes and orbital bombardments. Now, as for the Navy, we know that they have large ships, we know they've made use of warships and carriers in the past, and we know that they can assemble massive fleets. Their ships also seem to have a warp travel that kind of just teleports them where they need to be. Like, their ships just kind of appear in this scene. They don't come from any direction or out of any portals. The Cybermen have also made use of dark water, which can basically convert corpses into Cybermen, but I don't think I should give them this ability because this was an isolated incident where they had assistance from Missy, so I don't know if they would have access to this technology without her. But finally, I think I should mention cyber conversion planets. Cyber conversion planets are planets that are essentially just made into giant weapons and factories. They mass-produce Cybermen of all variants, and the planet itself is also capable of firing beams at other planets. These beams don't immediately destroy the planet, but they can cause extinction-level catastrophes, like simultaneous volcanic eruptions across Earth. Conversion planets are also cloaked and shielded so that they can be concealed and safely hidden away. Cybermen, at the end of the day, are an extremely overpowered threat. The Covenant and UNSC wouldn't stand much of a chance. Even if the Covenant stuck to primarily fighting space battles, they're going to get overwhelmed quickly. It should also be worth mentioning that by the end of the Cyber Wars, humanity's rule for if they ever saw a Cyberman again, if they even saw one Cyberman, it was to blow up the planet. They were ordered to blow up any planet that they saw any single Cyberman on. That's how dangerous these things are. I didn't go into too much detail about the Covenant and UNSC because, in all honesty, I feel like that would just be a waste of time. It's obvious they won't win. The real conversation to be had here is with the Flood. The Flood is an ancient parasite, infecting all organic life that comes into contact with it. They spread like wildfire, and it's been stated that a single spore could kill an entire species. The Cybermen are extremely intelligent and powerful. I do think they absolutely demolish both the UNSC and Covenant, but the Flood is a bit of a different story. First and foremost, I'm gonna assume the Flood would be able to infect the Cybermen. They're cyborgs, so they still are part organic. But something I predict many people will bring up is the Logic Plague. The Flood can use the Logic Plague to influence inorganic beings and machine intelligence. The only problem is the Cybermen technically aren't part of a hive mind, so no such methods could be spammed to every Cyberman through that hive mind. But the Flood do get smarter and stronger the longer they're active. They get more powerful overall. I think that this final fight between the Cybermen and the Flood is rather simple. It's all dependent on time. If the Cybermen can realize the danger the Flood represents, they can deal with the threat and eradicate them completely. They won't even have to face the Flood head on, because the Cybermen can literally destroy planets or eliminate all life on a planet's surface. They have multiple bombs and weapons that can be used to accomplish such things. And they certainly wouldn't be hesitant to destroy any planets. They're just gonna see those worlds as acceptable or necessary losses. If they can stop the Flood from spreading, then the Flood won't get very far at all. But if the Cybermen take too long to realize the danger of the Flood, and the Flood continues to get stronger and smarter, then I think they'd eventually overwhelm the Cybermen and spread too far to be controlled. This last fight is basically just a matter of who moves the fastest. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments because, as you all know, I love reading through those. And before anybody says it, I know I didn't really cover the UNSC and Covenant or even Flood very much. And that's not because I'm trying to leave information out for biased purposes, but that's because this video would be way too long for my taste if I went over 4 factions in full detail. And chances are, if you clicked on this video, you're already relatively familiar with the UNSC, Covenant, or Flood. I gave the Cybermen most coverage because a lot of people don't seem to understand just how powerful they are. I also thought it was necessary to clear up any possible lore confusion. But yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, like, all that good stuff. And definitely don't forget to join my Discord server. You can debate, chill, give me video ideas, and I'm hoping to start game and movie nights in the near future. So, yeah. But with all that being said, that's all I got for today, and I will see you next week for a very spooky set of matchups for a very spooky season. Bye-bye.